Hi everyone, it's Mr. Wyman again, and I'm going to read some more from Electric Ben. And this section is called Apprentice, Printer, Publisher, and Runaway. This is the third section in Electric Ben, coming right off of School Days. And you can see this image has a caption under it. Ben worked 10 to 14 hours a day, sweeping, running errands, writing or setting type by hand, inking, and operating the press. He borrowed books and often read most of the night. He became a vegetarian, saving money to buy his own books. Is that right? He practiced writing. He tried to he tried to imitate the style of writing he liked. He turned prose into poems and back again, and he never stopped reading. The work was hard and the hours were long, but Ben was strong and sturdy, and he had found a craft he loved. At age 12, Ben became an apprentice to his brother James, a printer. Ben wasn't thrilled about the apprenticeship. That would last 9 long years, but the trade offered him something quite appealing. He would be able to read, write, and edit the printed word. The apprenticeship did not go well. Two brothers did not like each other and quarreled constantly. Quarreled means they fought. Ben learned the trade quickly, but James treated him poorly, even beating him when they argued. In other words, like not beating him like in a contest or game, but actually physically like punching, kicking, hurting him physically. James was jealous of his brother's intellect. Intellect means smarts, how Ben thought and how he was able to use his mind. And he considered Ben arrogant. Arrogant means like thought too highly of himself. He thought that Ben was um, thought more of himself than what he actually was, or was extra proud, too proud. Here's a quote in the middle of this text. It says, "All the little money that came into my hands was laid out in books." In other words, every cent he got, he used to buy more books. James was an important printer in Boston. He published his own paper, the New England Courant. The Courant was unlike any other newspaper. It was biting, fresh, and controversial. It published articles making fun of politicians and sarcastic poems, some even written by Ben. Many of the letters from readers published in the Courant were actually written by James's young friends, and they lampooned upper-class Bostonians. Lampooned means like made fun of or ridiculed them. The letters were extremely popular with the public and were signed with such made-up names as Ichabod Henroost, Abigail Afterwit, Tabitha Talkative, and Fanny Mournful. These are like kind of funny, like on the nose names. Ben was anxious to be included in this group. It seemed like the cool thing to do, right? And worked to develop a style of writing like theirs. He secretly began to write made-up letters to the Courant signed by a simple country widow he called Silence Dogood, which he slipped under the door of the shop. They became the most popular, anticipated item the paper printed. Dogood mocked Boston's society and its puritanical ways, but the thoughts expressed were Ben's. She championed women's right to education and criticized everything from bad poetry and fashion to Harvard students. I am a mortal enemy to arbitrary government and unlimited power. I am naturally very jealous for the rights and liberties of my country, and the least appearance of encroachment of those invaluable privileges is apt to make my blood boil exceedingly. Sir, your friend and humble servant, Silence Dogood. James was furious and embarrassed when the true author of the letters was revealed. His 16-year-old brother had established himself as a real voice, a front runner of a new American form of writing. In 1723, James Franklin got thrown in jail for publishing opinions that had gone too far. So Ben took charge and published the paper under his own name. He promised he would tone down the writing that made people so angry. At age 17, Ben Franklin found himself the youngest printer, publisher, and editor in all of colonial America. This lasted for 3 weeks. When James was freed, he forced Ben to become an apprentice again. He refused to accept Ben as a writer and an equal. Ben worked hard and knew the newspaper business well. But the troubles between the two brothers grew. James ensured that no other printer in Boston would hire his brother. Ben wrote that his brother's harsh treatment demeaned me too much, but he also noted that I had already made myself a little obnoxious to the governing party. In other words, he kind of like stabbed himself in the foot. In other words, he hurt himself by being a little bit too over the top with his letters. It was time to move on. Ben sold his books to pay for passage, and fearing James might try to stop him, he secretly sailed first to New York, then to Philadelphia. On September 30th, 1723, Ben Franklin arrived in Philadelphia, ready to start his new life. And here's a caption that says, below, Ben sailed from Boston to New York, a city smaller than Boston, without a bookstore or newspaper. It only had one printer who advised Ben to go on to Philadelphia to find work. The entire journey from Boston to Philadelphia took Ben 8 days, traveling first by boat, then by coach, and on foot. So a little of everything there. Here's a new section. It says Philadelphia.